Hello and welcome back to Frogboy X1 Gaming. I'm Andrew and today we're talking about Xbox Series S some more. I know I'm going to beat this like a dead freaking horse, so if you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. Yeah, man, we're going to be talking about Xbox Series S a lot on this channel. So, after some pretty decent extensive testing, I am truly amazed at just how wonderful this is. So, playing a lot of the older games, you know, like the Xbox One games, Xbox One games that haven't been optimized for Xbox Series S. I am still getting pretty decent results on those. Now, I am playing these on a 1440p monitor now. I have since settled on, you know, that's exactly where I believe the Xbox Series S really shines. So you're getting, if you get a 1440p monitor for this, you are getting one heck of a showcase. Like, there's no way to sugarcoat that. Like, it feels native, it feels good, it feels fast, it feels like I'm playing my Xbox Series X just on a native screen. So, when you factor in the fact that, you know, you're not going to be able to buy discs for this thing, that you're going to be basically beholden to the online store, Game Pass really definitely helps with that a lot. So if you are one of them people that just got one of these Xbox Series S's and you've got it maybe hooked up to your 4K TV, or you already have a monitor for it, from my whole year with the Xbox One or Series X, I can confidently tell you that Xbox Series S is one heck of a machine. Like, it is doing dang near every single thing that the big one is doing. Now, I probably went back and forth with like 50 titles on this thing, like 50 different games, playing them, getting a feeling for them. Like, I really have barely turned my Series X on in like the last couple of weeks. I've really been trying to play as much as I can on the Series S since I've got it, so that I can bring you good content, accurate content, so I can test this, put it through its paces, really feel like, hey man, is this worth it? I don't want to tell somebody, hey, go buy an Xbox Series S, if it's not going to be worth it to you. Me personally, would I be completely satisfied with the Series S? On a 1440p monitor, 100% satisfied. It feels great. It feels like I'm playing the Xbox Series X. 4K TV, that's where things start to get a little bit. Now my 4K TV does have a decent upscaler. It will upscale the image and make it look a lot cleaner, a lot sharper, a lot better. So, I mean, as it sits for me, yeah, I'm still getting a pretty decent 4K image when it's hooked up to my 4K TV. But nothing beats the native resolution on a 1440p monitor. Like, there's no getting around that. On the 4K TV, yes, it does look pretty good, but there's really just no getting around. There's really no getting around that discrepancy when you go from, you know, 1440p monitor all the way up to 4K. Like, there's no getting around that. So that's the biggest drawback that I feel the Xbox Series S could potentially have. And all TVs are made different. There's no the TVs are not the same. If you get a cheap 4K TV, you're going to get a cheap 4K experience. If you get a really high-end one, like an OLED or something with like really good tech in it, your mileage is going to vary greatly across 4K TVs. Monitors, on the other hand, 1080p or 1440p with HDR like this one has, wow, it looks freaking good. It is good. And this monitor, like, the black levels are freaking nice. it has such a good way of reproducing colors on these monitors. Like they're great. They really are freaking phenomenal when it comes to color reproduction. So I am a big fan of Dolby Vision. And yes, your Xbox Series S will have, in fact, Dolby Vision in there as well. I'm a big fan of Dolby Vision. And I'm telling you that between 4K, my 4K OLED with Dolby Vision, as opposed to the monitor, like it looks pretty good. The HDR reproduction of HDR10 on this monitor is freaking phenomenal. Like it works pretty nice. Now, the one I'm using currently is the LG Ultra Gear 27-inch with 165 hertz refresh screen. It does have two HDMI ports, as well as a jack for, you know, the actual PC hookup cable, as well as for sound. You get a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack for sound, so that you can do that. There is a way to play with all the settings right here on the monitor. It's really nice. Like, this thing is great. I bought that monitor specifically to test the Xbox Series S. I wanted something. See, here's my thing. Like, I've been playing with these 4K consoles for a while now, since Xbox One X. And to be able to have a native image on the 4K, or as close to it as you can get, is always better. It is always better. So I made it a point. I was like, I need to see what this Series S can do at a native 1440p. What Microsoft said that their target, 1080p to 1440p. I needed to test that to see if that was going to hold up, to see how that was going to feel. Developer support for some of these games. Some of them are opting for higher resolution and 30 frames a second. Some of them are opting for, kind of a middle ground to get you 60 frames a second. A lot of the games that I've bought personally that I wanted to play and that I have been playing are running really, really well on the Xbox Series S. Halo Infinite runs beautifully. Forza Horizon 5, completely beautiful. Far Cry 6, these games are all getting, 60 frames per second mode in them with a solid image quality, with plenty of fidelity visuals. And that was one of the bigger things that I thought we were going to lose. I was thinking, oh man, we're going to lose a lot of vegetation. We're going to lose a lot of texture detail. We're going to lose a lot of draw distance. That's just not the case. That is not the case. When I'm looking at these games side by side on my Series X or my PlayStation 5, I do have to use that a lot. When I'm looking at these games side by side and I'm looking for, how much vegetation is by the side of the track, or how much vegetation is in the open world, or how much, how does the texture detail look on the 1440p versus the 4K monitor? You are getting a pretty complete package. If anything's scaled back, it's not that much, to be completely honest with you. Now, I've watched a lot of comparison videos from Digital Foundry over, the X and S and PlayStation 5. And to tell you the truth, man, like, I just don't understand. Like, I don't know, man. I'm starting to really question those guys, because how many people do you think, like, when you hear something, you're like, oh man, yeah, the way they say things, like, for sometimes they're being, pretty honest or whatever, but just the way they convey some stuff, it makes you question, like, man, is that really that good? Is that really that good? Like with Assassin's Creed Valhalla, this is one of the ones that, like, really set me off. This is why I just don't pay attention to Digital Foundry that often anymore. Like, I like the guys. I think they're fine, whatever. I'm not here to, like, bag on Digital Foundry, but this is the thing that really put me over the edge with those guys and made me really start questioning, hey man, is what they say really gospel, or does it really affect my gaming experience the way that they're talking about it? They told us from the get-go that Assassin's Creed Valhalla looked better and played better on PlayStation 5. I bought that game on Xbox Series X. I bought that when it first came out. I actually bought it on Xbox One X. I played through that whole game on Xbox Series X. When I got my PlayStation 5, I bought a second copy for my PlayStation 5. It was a few months after launch. Game probably definitely got upgraded and updated and runs, more closely to the PlayStation 5, and that's my case. Like it does. When I booted it up and was playing it on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, it essentially ran the exact same. It ran the exact same. There was no major discrepancies. Like the PlayStation 5 version didn't look any better. The Xbox version didn't look any better. There was no it was completely moot. Like everything they were saying. And then when you got to understand, when they talk about dynamic resolution and dropping as low as like 500p or whatever, or 900p or any of that 1440p stuff, when that dynamic resolution drops, it's literally within a frame. Literally within a frame or two, maybe. If you got 60 frames a second, and the resolution drops for one of those frames, or two of those frames, or 3 frames, do you really think in that 1 second you're gonna see all of that? No, you have to stop that camera. Like you have to stop it at that point to count those pixels to really understand that. And when you're looking around, like when you're driving or something, like yeah, the resolution may drop to like 1440p and hold like a steady 1440p. Like it did on Watch Dogs Legion or whatever. Watch Dogs Legion, you'd be driving around and you'd see the resolution. Well, I mean, you necessarily wouldn't see it because it would, like, right when you would stop, it would be boom. It would be right back to nice or whatever. And the blur effect when you're always driving or something. It's things that you're not noticing, that you're not gonna notice unless you are literally looking for them. So when they tell you that, oh man, this game is dropping to like 900p or whatever, that is seriously with them stopping the camera and it dropping at that very moment to be able to actually see that. And they do. They play. You can on my editing software, I can play back a whole video frame by frame, so I can see how it plays frame by frame. So you have to literally be looking at this, and there's things in there that show them, when the frame kind of takes a little hit or something. There's ways to find that stuff pretty quickly. So you need to understand that, like, the resolution of these games nowadays, there's so many different methods out there for masking that and fixing that and making it look better. The PlayStation uses checkerboard rendering. They use temporal injection. There's temporal injection in Unreal Engine 5. There's upscaling techniques that are like DLSS on PC and everything else. And I'm telling you that all of these technologies will always resolve to give you a decent image quality. The only time your image quality is seriously going to suffer is if you are playing on something that isn't a native screen. You need a native screen. Native as in, if your game is 1080p, you want a 1080p screen. If your game is 1440p, 1440p screen. 4K, you want a 4K screen. Anytime you get a native image on a native screen, it looks amazing. If you knew, honestly, since I've gotten this laptop, I've been able to actually play PC games at their max settings. Even on 1440p, I've been able to max out settings on a lot of games I've bought. I'm telling you, the stuff they've been selling us on console over the last however many years has been like really, really, really reduced in image quality, in resolution, in textures, in everything. Like literally everything. Like we have barely been. I'm surprised most of the games that they've been selling us have even been working. I just got done playing Castlevania Lords of Shadows 2 and 1. And I remember Castlevania Lords of Shadow 1 when I first played that on Xbox 360. I played that on Xbox 360 the first time, and then PlayStation 3. That game, it looked pretty good back then. But I mean, you could see the 720p and like all the shimmer and all that and everything. Just like when you put it on a PC at 1080p or 1440p with maximum settings, wow, that game has so much texture. It looks so good. Like the stuff they've been selling us has been pretty moot all along. This is the first generation that we are starting to actually see ultra textures ultra draw distance, ultra freaking vegetation, like of Assassin's Creed Valhalla. This is the first generation that I can tell you, honestly, what I'm seeing on PC and what I'm seeing on Series X, PlayStation 5, and Series S on native screens. We're getting pretty close. I mean, like, there's some things that are still going to be better on PC, and there's some things that are going to be a lot better once games start getting built with more data. But right now, all these cross-gen games, we're basically getting like the highest freaking textures you can get in a lot of these games. We're getting pretty high levels. Now, there's some games that I haven't been able to test on the PC yet because my PC is just not strong enough, but stuff that would run on like on an Xbox One X and now has gotten updated for the Series X, like I can see exactly, even if I let my frame rate drop completely all the way to like 2 or 3 or whatever, I can still see the level of textures, the level of detail, all the other things that would normally be present. And I'm telling you, like, we're pretty close. Things might they might leave us in the dust, in the next couple of years, but right now we're pretty close to somewhat of a PC experience. So this here was supposed to be a video on the Series S, and it is. Like, it's coming back around to that. Series S is one heck of a console built for a 1080p to 1440p native monitor or native TV. Now, it is almost impossible to find a TV that will give you 1440p. Like, there's no 2K TVs out there. You have 1080p or you have 4K. The monitor's the sweet spot. That's where you're going to be able to get that. I do highly recommend a monitor for the Xbox Series S. They do make them up to like 32 or 36 inches or whatever, but you are going to get one heck of a visual showcase if you do it that way. If you can't go that way, 4K would be your next best bet, but make sure you get one with the HDMI 2.1 so that you can actually take advantage of, like the VRR and all the other things in there. The only TVs with 2.1 are going to become with VRR support. And like Dolby Vision and all the other stuff. You'll want Dolby Vision, you'll want all that. So I do recommend getting a better TV because chances are you'll outgrow the Xbox Series S if you have a 4K TV, and you might end up, when you actually have the opportunity to get an Xbox Series X, or PlayStation 5, it would make sense to upgrade if you go with the 4K TV. If you have an OLED already, you're going to have a decent experience. Most of them OLED TVs have really good upscalers that will make that image look even better. But at the end of the day, like 1080p is my last recommendation. And my last recommendation for that would literally be a monitor as well with HDR support and everything else. That's the least I would go with that. I cannot recommend. Well, I mean, if you've already got a 1080p TV, the thing with 1080p TVs is you're not going to have HDR support. You're not going to get VRR support. You're not going to get any feature that you would want on these next-gen consoles. So monitors or 4K TVs are the only way to really go with that. But if all you have is a 1080p TV, or you're buying this for your kids, then that's not going to really matter. They're not going to care about the VRR support. They're not going to care about the HDR support. They're not going to care about all these features that they would need. And the Xbox Series S, my daughter, I have her on a 1080p TV, and it is working just fine for her. She is able to get everything she needs to out of that and more. So that's my little ramble about the Series S today. I'm going to try to do as much Series S content as often as I can because I want you guys to be well informed. I want you guys to understand that Xbox Series S is a next-gen console and it will deliver a next-gen experience. I am completely satisfied with mine, and I will be actively playing more content on the Xbox Series S when I buy new games. Like, I will be playing them on my Series X, and I will be playing them on the Series S as well as the PlayStation 5. I'm really trying to make it to the point where I can actually buy two copies of each game so that I can bring that content to you. Some games, are going to be more likely than not, but at least the biggest AAA games, I'm going to really try to dial down and make sure I can get 2 copies of those. And of course, PlayStation first party games. Yeah, you will definitely be getting some updates on those. And I will be doing an update video on Riders Republic for the PlayStation 5. I found out some interesting stuff that will make that experience much better if you have PlayStation 5. So stay tuned for that. And I will, like I said, if you like this content, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you, and have an amazing day. I gotta find